Thank you for tuning in today. You were listening to the Adam Messer Show here on WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And if you're tuning in, this is the second hour with my special guest, Jim Nettles. And welcome back, Jim. Can you hear me? Hello, Jim. I think Jim will be back in just a second, y'all. He had to go take care of his doggy, so we're just gonna.
He's got it. Yes, he's getting off. He's getting off of mute.
Oh, okay, you there? Okay, cool. I know you had to go
here.
take care of your doggies during the break, so we're all good, man. Bass is in the studio with us as well, and he is gonna play. I asked him if he would play immigrant songs, so yeah, you ready, Bass?
Yeah.
All right, take it away, man. Awesome, man. I know you're on the acoustic and it's like sounds different than the electric guitar, but that was awesome, dude. Oh man. So all right, Jim.
Always a great opening for a song.
I'll tell you what, that is like one of my favorite rock songs of all time. I don't know, just something about it. It's real short, but it's like very powerful too, in my opinion. So dude, we were like last hour. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say it's a great primal opening. It's a lot of energy, and it's simple, but it's got a strong beat, and it tells you we're going for this. And again, that's a part of storytelling is what do the beats tell you? I mean, we talk about story beats, but I mean, that alone, again, music is storytelling. Even if there's not lyrics to it, music is a story.
Oh yeah. That's crazy too, because that's one of my favorite songs. I've always liked Norse mythology growing up, and Thor, with the comics and all that. And that was one of the reasons why I chose to call the little small imprint Valhalla Books, because I've always enjoyed Norse mythology. And like Neil Gaiman's got a great book on Norse mythology, and I can't remember the lady's name. I have a copy of it at home, but Neil Gaiman talks a lot about like her work that she did on Norse mythology, and so yeah, that was a heavily influence on the decision to call it Valhalla Books, because I love that song.
Yeah, now I'm trying to remember what her name is, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't want to say Mildred or Miriam, but I think it starts with an M. I don't know, but. Yeah, so anyway, we're into the second hour now, talking about like just, updates and what else, what got going on and yada, yada, yada. And so you've been doing the Con-Tinual stuff. Oh man, it's almost been a year now, right?
We are, in fact, I was on a call just earlier today. We're working on several things. So Con-Tinual launched in April of last year.
Right.
Now, it came out of several stuff, and some of which have been going on for a number of years. But it started April of last year, and so we're at 9 months, and we've put out about 250 hours of content.
Mm-hmm. And the cool thing about it is that y'all have done a bunch of the convention circuits, as authors and special guests and et cetera, et cetera. And I thought it was really cool how you pulled together this virtual, because when this was kind of going on with the early part of the pandemic, a lot of conventions were holding out. They weren't sure because of contractual obligations if they could even cancel the convention, yada, yada, yada. So I thought it was really cool how y'all had pulled this together and did these this virtual convention, and there was a bunch of the groups have now kind of come on board, but y'all were some of the early adopters of that. And even like other events and venues are doing virtual events now. just as a way to kind of connect with people. And it's weird. It's not the same as being live and in front of somebody, but there are a lot of benefits to doing it. I feel like, and for some folks who they can't, maybe they can't afford, admission price, or maybe they can't afford, the health risks of being in, like they might have some kind of health issues or whatever, that kind of prevent them from going to the conventions anyway, which I know a bunch of people that are like that. This is an outlet for them. This is a way that they can, make like online friends and, be able to check out like, the panels and stuff like that they normally wouldn't have seen, so I think it's really cool what y'all are doing.
Well, and I think the impact we've had, because it's not just been us. We're now up to our core team is about 12 people, and really the core programming team we've got is 9, and we've got other people that we work with and partner with. But the other support we've had, which is of course goes both directions, is some of the events and conventions we've been working with. We're going to continue to be working with. Sometimes that is just a matter of telling people, the online content's out there. Other times we're sharing the platform. We're broadcasting some of it exclusively through Con-Tinual, or we're co-broadcasting it. We've given our playbook to a number of conventions. And the take we've taken for stuff that is not exclusively our content is, hey, we want you to build up your own platform. We want you to build your own content, and we want to help share it. We want to be a distribution medium. We've got some audience, and obviously part of our intention there is, we want to bring some of your audience over to us. We want to bring some of our audience over to you. But it's really, how do you do something effectively? And some of the more meaningful things that have come out for me are the number of people that have come and said either I haven't been able to afford to go to a convention, or my health has stopped me from going to conventions for years, even before the current pandemic state and everything else. The number of people that say, I really have missed that sense of community. I've missed the information. I've missed the panels. So I think that's fantastic. But the other thing that we've been able to do is the people we've been able to put on a panel together, not only from just across the country, but from around the world. We did a show with Nalini Singh not long ago, talking about her entire breadth of work from New Zealand. We've got shows coming up, more people coming in from out of Europe. We've got more people coming from Australia and New Zealand, as well as other places as well. So, and a number of the names and people that have come to come and play with us on the platform, we're getting bigger and bigger names. One of the new shows that we have started is An Hour With, which is an hour talking to somebody about the length and breadth of their career. We had fun talking to John Land about his career, about everything from his own independent series to doing intellectual tie-in properties like Jessica Fletcher and that series and some of these sorts of things. But this is somebody who's had a career going back to the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So
speaking of that
series that we've got
speaking of that, like talking with people with like long-standing careers, I'm pretty excited because I just interviewed Ellen Datlow, and she's gonna the pre-recorded episode's gonna be on next week, but she started in the 70s with editing, and she's a big name editor, down to the earth, salt of the earth kind of person, just very, very easy going, talking with and all that. And man, I really enjoy talking with her. But it's cool. I think it's really cool to be able to talk with people who have, they've seen a ton of changes in the industry from the working perspective of it, not just as, like people that I don't know how to say this, but like when you switch from like being just a reader to writing and then publishing, and then not just publishing, but also being published or publishing other people, you have a different working perspective of it, right? So it's kind of like if you like a particular store or something like that as a customer, and you go there and then you start working there, you kind of see more of the inner workings of it or whatever. So I think it's really interesting the folks that you've had on that have, a lot of experience. Now, I am going to make a caveat here with that. There is no prescriptive advice out there, folks. So I don't care who it is or what it is or what you're listening to. You have to figure it out for yourself still. The thing you can do is you can, follow along with like what they're doing, and you can duplicate success to a point, but don't look at it like, okay, well, so-and-so did this for 20 years. If I just do what they did, I could shortcut success. It just doesn't work like that. And be aware of people that are like trying to, like I say shovels and jeans, but literally be aware of those folks that are like, well, I've got 20 years experience in the field, and if you just buy my course for $99.99, you can be a successful XYZ as well. It's nonsense. It is just utter nonsense. Right. Now, I'm not saying don't do educational courses. I'm not saying do, follow-up stuff. Do those things. But don't fall for the, you can do it too crowd, because it's a bunch of bull. It's just a bunch of nonsense, y'all. Really. And I see that it's rampant in the publishing industry. And I don't like it. I really don't.
And being somebody who does some of those classes and things like that, I agree 100%.
Oh, yeah. If I thought you were like that, I would not even want to talk with you. I know that you're legit, and I really appreciate the way that you do things. And, that's what I'm saying. Like, I do courses all the time, man. I buy books. I buy learning stuff all the time. I'm not saying don't, keep getting your education, y'all. I'm saying don't fall for the shysters or the snake oil salespeople. Just don't. Because they're going to promise you the world. Yeah. Vet your sources. Yeah. Check them out. Like, if you got a guy like Jim here, you're looking at his author's essentials or whatever. Like James Nettles. If you look him up there, you can see like all this stuff online about him. So you can kind of vet him yourself and like, oh well, this guy, guy knows what he's talking about. He's been doing it.
I mean, because a lot of, but here, and I agree entirely. I mean, one of the things that because I'm a voracious reader, I study all of the time. I'm always working on skill sets. I'm always looking at what's changing.
Yep.
What I believe in and my approach to teaching is not to say, here's your rock solid answer, because there is no silver bullet.
Right.
And in fact, when I did a workshop not too long ago, because I was teaching an IP workshop and I wanted to show what IP violations look like, I took a screenshot from The Mandalorian. And I said, here's the first thing. If somebody comes up to you and says, this is the way and the only way, then the way is to run.
Then get away. Get away.
Then get away. There's no one method. There's no silver bullet. There is your path. There is your approach. I believe in teaching people the tools. I believe in teaching people options and approaches. And as a consultant, because, I've done business and technology consulting for years. And, everybody wants the answer.
Well, people want shortcuts, right? They want shortcuts.
Yeah.
They don't want to, hear that, hey, you got to, in order to be a writer, you got to write. They don't want to hear that. It's like, well, it's that easy. Well, yeah, it's that hard, too. They want the shortcuts.
Well, all right, I will give you a perfect example. I got a text from a good friend of mine last night.
Yeah.
He says, I got a writing question for you. And this is somebody who's not a writer. But he says, I got a writing question for you. And I said, okay. So I called him up. He's in the car, and he's like, so I've got a question. I'm trying to figure out whether I should be doing this in first person or third person. I said, tell me what you're working on. And he kind of walked me through it. And it started out as a text exchange back and forth with somebody and started developing into a story. And I said, okay, here's my advice. Don't worry about first or third person. Write the story. Finish the story. Because guess what? That's just your starting point. And that's often the hardest piece of advice for people is typing the end is just the beginning. And when I said, look, you're writing it in first person right now, right? Yeah. Okay, great. Finish it in first person. Then read it and figure out what's wrong with your story. He goes, what do you mean what's wrong with it? I said, you're not working from a script. You're not working from a beat. You're not working from anything else. You're writing a story. Finish the story.
Who cares?
Then we can figure out
Just
what's
don't
wrong
worry
with
about
it.
structure and all that other stuff that's gonna whatever get caught up in your mind, and just write it. Just write it fast and edit slow. Whatever works. Float your boat. I've got to do the station ID real quick.
And
everybody, you're tuning in today to WRU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. I get fired up about that because I see it all the time, and I see excuse me, let me clear my throat before I say this. I see some people who have some moderate or mild success, and they let it go to their head, and they think that they're like internet famous or whatever, and then they're like, well, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, have you ever studied the rise and fall of anyone who's famous that was like a hero and then became a zero overnight? I just see that over and over again, Jim, and I just don't get it. I'm like, why do you let it go to your head?
Like I say, I'm not working towards, I'm not working towards fame. I am always working towards wealth and riches, but that's a different story. But no, I'm not working towards fame. I'm not worried about that. If it happens, fantastic, and then there's the pains that go along with that.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm doing the things in the publishing industry I'm doing, I love to write fiction. I love for some of that to hit really big. There's some things I'm working on that are, have some good, strong commercial value again, and working towards that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the nonfiction stuff that, honestly, though, that pays. And some of that is working on email campaigns for clients. Some of that is working on white papers. Some of that's writing news articles. Some of that is ghostwriting. There's a lot of work that's involved, and using language and working through that. So, a lot of the things that I'm doing, the reason I wrote the Business Essentials for Writers book and the ones that are coming afterwards that I'm working on, it's more about the things that I've learned over 30-something years. It's more about the questions people ask, because pretty much everything that's in that first book came out of a question someone asked that I then wrote up an article, or wrote a post, or I wrote up something that went somewhere as an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took that collection, we refined it down, because there's enough left over from just what I started with as the rough draft for me to do 2 more editions of that, just answering questions. Some of that stuff will make it in there. Some of that stuff winds up in posts and other places. But it really is about answering the questions that people have come to me and asked, because, again, what happens a lot of the time is they come and say, you're one of those weird business techie people, right? Well, in the business world, I can't even get there. They're like, you're one of those weird creative people, right? I don't fit entirely into either world, and I kind of keep a foot in both. And I am a firm believer that people in the creative space have an ability and should be willing and able, if they want to at least make part of their living, if not their entire living, from their creative outlets. But that also means you have to recognize and balance your creativity against the commercial value. And this is one of those big pain points for everybody, is the difference between I have my story I want to tell and how many people want to read that kind of a story.
Yeah, I saw something recently that, like, for example, with horror, that horror has like an $80 million market share, right, yearly.
Yeah.
And so, there's a piece of the pie out there. There's other genres that, do, like, romance is the biggest seller in the market or whatever. But I feel like it goes back to being sincere and being genuine and authentic. The reason why I was saying all this stuff is because, like, I've kind of been on this thing lately with just some of these folks out there. Like the social media and these influencers and stuff like that. And like, you hear these stories about people that, like, oh, they rented this Airbnb to show that, like, oh, they're, they've got this lifestyle or whatever. They rented, like an hour, like, with the Lamborghini or something like that, just to try to whatever. And I see these these folks that they think that once they write a book and they put it out there that they're going to be famous, and it's just not that way. Like, I mean, the rare out of the gate, bestseller, going to be the next blockbuster movie type thing. That's super super duper rare. I'm not saying it can't happen, because it can, but like, even like a guy like Paulo Coelho, his book came out, The Alchemist, and it took like 10 years for it to get any kind of traction, according to his own admission, his own words, saying that, hey, it took 10 years. Like the first 6 months, it only sold one copy. So.
Well, and everybody, because there is still that myth of, if you build it, they will come. And the truth is, you can build it. You still got to tell them it's there and why they want to visit. Mm-hmm. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little while ago, which is there's so many options out there now, and so many ways that you can be found and you can be noticed. The hard part, and going back to your talking about influencers, which is a term I have challenges with, is that most influencers that you see are showing that they're influential because they're influential. They're stars because they're stars, not because of what they're doing. And I am one that firmly believes in just go and do, and eventually, if you keep doing and you keep doing the work, and the work isn't always easy and it isn't always fun, but keep doing the work, eventually it will pay off. I went and pulled it off my bookshelf while we were sitting here as we were talking about it. I am holding a book called Turning Pro right here in my hand from Stephen Pressfield. The first book of his I ever read was War of Art. If you've not read these books, there's a tremendous amount of value in what are fairly short books. But
do me a favor too, because I'll put that link with the podcast. But if you'll send me the titles, I can share that with the
sure.
description of the podcast too. So when they check it out, they can actually have a link to it.
Sure. But I mean, so Stephen Pressfield wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance. Got turned into a movie. But he talks about, and he's a very well-known author now.
I'm pretty sure they filmed that here in Savannah, too. That was the one with Will Smith, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they filmed that here in Savannah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you go through and you read and you listen to him being interviewed, he talks about the days that he was so determined to build his success as a writer, but he was doing that while he was driving a cab. He was doing that while he was doing all these other things. Because at the end of the day, it's about if that's where you really want to build your career and a business.
I have a story for you about that show, too.
Well, we'll get there in a minute. But, I mean, it's one of those things that I look at and I say, if the hardest thing for anybody, especially in the creative space, but not only there, in many spaces, is they'll look at you and say, I just want to do that work. I want to do this. Well, if that's the case, go get a job. If you really want to do something in these spaces and you want to have an impact and you want to reap the benefits, you're building a business. It's not just a career. It truly is. You're building a business and you're the product. And that's one of those things that, because most creatives, and I know I'm throwing generalizations, but are introverted to a certain extent. I am an extroverted introvert or an introverted extrovert or just slightly crazy. I'm not sure which. But
you're more of a multiverse kind of guy. Like you can go in and out where you need to.
I will flip the switch on and we're good to go. And then there's periods of time where I'm going to
go.
Like,
don't call
me. Right now,
yeah, I know.
Don't call me. Don't bug me. I'm sitting on my mountain on the side of a mountain, and I don't even want to put up the squirrel that's out there.
Oh no. So you want to hear this Bagger Vance story?
Absolutely.
Okay, so back in the day, I used to work as an optician, and I was working at a place in the mall that's no longer there here in Savannah. And this dude comes in, and they're like, I swear that I knew this guy from somewhere. I couldn't place him though. Like, because I've met a lot of people, and I know a lot of people, whatever, as well. But this is like back in, I think, 99, something like that. And this guy comes in. I'm like, I'm adjusting his glasses, and he needed one of the screws to come out of his glasses or whatever. And this guy's sitting there, and I'm like, man, I just know this guy from somewhere. I just know him from somewhere. I don't know where I know him from, but so I'm sitting there adjusting his glasses, and I'm talking to him, and I was like, I said, do you ever get that, like, where people are like, they feel like they know you from somewhere, but they don't? Because I said, I feel like I know you from somewhere, but I said, I don't know you. And the guy's like, yeah, I get that all the time. And I was like, yeah, I said, that's just kind of strange. Just, I said, whatever. So we're sitting there. I mean, this is like maybe a 2-minute conversation or something like that. And so the guy's like, yeah, he's like, I'm in town. And he said, we're doing a movie. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Which movie is it or whatever. And I can't remember what the name of it was that he told me, but it had a working title, but he couldn't tell me like the title. But it turns out that it was Lane Smith, who is he passed away in 2005, but like he was in My Cousin Vinny. He was like the attorney that was trying to prosecute the kids in that. He was also in like that I think Father-in-Law and The Mighty Ducks. I've got like his IMDb, but anyway, so like here this guy is, coming in there, and I'm he's just getting his eyeglasses adjusted or whatever, and I'm sitting there talking to him, but I had that weird feeling like I know you, dude, but I don't know you, like so. But that was my the Legend of Bagger Vance story.
And it's one of those things of, you have to, I mean, actors are people too. Most of them, at least. But it's one of those things, again, of it's doing the work to get noticed. I mean, we've 99% of the time, the overnight success is somebody who's been working on it for forever. Mm-hmm. And they just finally got noticed. They hit the right place and the right attention, and you hope that happens before you die. If you look at the number of quote unquote famous artists and authors and everybody else whose work didn't become famous until after they were dead, there's a little bit that can be a little depressing. But at the same time, we also know there's a lot of people out there making a good living from their art. Are they driving Lamborghinis? Do they have private jets? Probably not. Most corporate CEOs don't either. But you can make a good living at it and enjoy what you're doing and have that control. And
dude, talking about that, like when you're talking about the private jet, there's this guy that I used to really follow all the time, and he owns a Gulfstream, right? And so like when he first got his Gulfstream, he was like real big on it, like how he has this Gulfstream and yada yada, and it's like saving him so much money, just to because he doesn't have to pay for these other expenses or whatever. And like not too long ago, the dude posted something about like you don't really have flex until you can own a private jet and not have to post about it. And I was like, what? I was like, this is like your whole like linchpin of you, like, oh, I've made it, a couple of years ago, and and now you're saying like, yeah, you're not really, you haven't really made it if you have to flex because you have a private jet. I'm like, oh, isn't that the most hypocritical thing I've seen in a long time? I about died. Well, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, come on, man. Come on. Oh my gosh. It cracked me up.
You got to, again, it's go for the ride, because again, at the end of the day, if you can make a good living at it and enjoy it, and if you do get the Netflix deal, you get the Amazon deal to pick it up, all the better for it. Because all that really at the end, once you get past a certain point, money is just a tool.
Yeah,
it is a tool that gives you options. And if you don't have it up to a certain point and you're just trying to, you're trying to keep the baseline going, it's a hard place to be.
Yeah.
But after a certain point, money is a tool that gives you new options. And it's the way you get to grow things. And, pretty much the hard part of the story is this. Bootstrapping anything can be painful.
Yeah.
But if you do it right, there's a good payoff at the end. You just got to stick with it for long enough.
Man, it's so crazy you say that too, but there was this, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. I cannot remember. It was a female musician. and she was talking about, I can't remember her name, but she was talking about like get to the point where you have like quote unquote FU money, quote unquote. And, you know, I can't cuss on air, so, but, you know, we all know what that stands for. But she was saying, you know, have that because then you can walk away from something. So, like, if somebody comes to you with a ridiculous, you know, proposition like, oh, you know, this is going to be the next man thing, and it's a lot of exposure and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, you know, or if you're getting into a project where, like, things are, like, they're trying to change everything on you, which that'll happen, too. You can be like, no, I'm just going to walk away from this. This is not like what we agreed to. So no, we're not doing that today. And just walk away. So I think, yeah, it is a thing where money is a tool, and it's a powerful leverage for people to be able to, you know, do the things that they want to do. So, hey, we got to do the station break real quick, and I just want to welcome Bill Cooper in the house. What's up, man? How you doing, Bill?
Greetings. How are you, Adam?
Good.
And Baz?
All right, so everybody tuning in today, you're listening to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul.
What does it mean when we say that WRUU is a community radio station? It doesn't just mean that we invite the community to create programming. And it doesn't just mean that we are a voice for the community. It also means that we are counting on the community to keep us going. And you are the community. Almost all of our modest budget comes from small annual or monthly donations from listeners like you. You get to enjoy our community-focused programming because many others have stepped forward to do their part. Now do your part by joining our community of listener donors. Go to WRUU.org right now and make a one-time or monthly donation. And thank you for supporting Savannah's community radio station, 107.5 FM.
This is a message from the Georgia State Department of Public Health. There is a State of Georgia hotline people can call with questions or if they think they may have been exposed to the COVID-19 virus. It is 1-844-442-2681. If you believe you're experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 or have been exposed to the novel coronavirus, please contact your primary care doctor, an urgent care clinic, or your local federally qualified healthcare center. Please do not show up at an emergency room or healthcare facility unannounced. More information can be found at dph.georgia.gov. This portion of WRUU Savannah Soundings programming is provided by listeners and by Brighter Day Natural Foods. Brighter Day Natural Foods has been serving Savannah's healthy food and supplement needs since 1978. It is located at the corner of Bull Street and Park Avenue. They have available online ordering and curbside delivery, and now a walk-up window for smoothies, juices, and sandwiches from the deli. They are open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 12 to 5:30 p.m. on Sunday. More information can be found at brighterdayfoods.com.
All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. We're back, and I've got Jim Nettles in the studio, and also, on the phone in the studio, I should say. But I also got Mr. Bill Cooper in the area. He was trying to sneak out real quick, but
Only one channel. Thank you.
What's up, Bill? How you doing?
Hey, Adam. How you doing? I'm sorry. Who's your guest, please?
Mr. Jim Nettles.
Hello, Jim. How are you?
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. Considering the world, I'm doing excellent.
Yeah. You had your Postcards from Lowell show this week. I think it was pretty good, man. Yeah, like the one that you do on Facebook on Wednesdays.
Jim, this is a 15-minute show. I started it last year, August 1st, and it's just 15 minutes of fun and nonsense. And I
Kind of
figured
like an old variety show.
that was when things started to shut down. You couldn't go places, and the masks were everywhere. And people were getting a little uptight, so I just wanted them something to laugh about for 15 minutes every week at the same time, Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And it has really taken off. I mean, I'm very proud of it because I have good people with me. Chad, my wife Mary Ann normally, and people that will call in and go along with the joke. So anyway, we have a good time doing it, and that's one of the things that
Hey, if you can make people laugh, that's one of the most valuable things on the planet.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, generally they're laughing at me, not with me. But hey, if you can make people laugh, go for it.
I can accept that if they're laughing at me.
Yeah.
I really can't because I made someone happy. It's okay. You're not hurting my feelings. I'm too old.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your feelings leave a long time ago, and you say, what did I ever feel bad about that for? So if I can make you laugh and you think I'm a fool, I'm happy for you.
I think it's a good little format. Like, especially, you know, you'd always do like a little nostalgic kind of story, and then you have your skits or whatever, and the little jokes and stuff. I think it's good, clean fun, and
it is, and it is. As I said, it's not scripted.
Yeah,
we've never scripted it. We just come up with a premise and run with it. We have never had a script that we had to learn or have in front of us, and that's the best part of it. It's all off the cuff.
And one of the main things that they do, Jim, is like this guy Chad. They're always trying to set him up, and they always have like these crazy, wacky. What was that one lady that she tried to get him a limo or something like that, and like to drive him up somewhere on a.
Oh yeah, on I-95.
Yeah.
A big Ben. She had a Bentley limo, and he jumped out of it when it was running.
Yeah.
I said, why? He says, well, she had a butler or something in it that was a robot. It popped out of the front seat, and it was just too scary. I said, you got to be kidding me! I'd throw the robot out of a limo, out of a Bentley before I got out of it.
Yeah, just
stuff like that.
Wacky, funny little, But I like that show too. I can't always watch it live, but I do like being able to catch it, when you put it on, and then, I think it's too like Jim Nettles and his crew. They do this thing called Con-Tinual, and it's like these conventions that people do, together or whatever.
Yeah.
So. They do something like a virtual type thing like that, where they get authors and guests and actors and all kinds of people together on it. So,
oh, super!
If there's trouble to be caused, I'm usually behind it.
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy too, Jim. Like yesterday was the 1 year anniversary when you did that last comedy show.
Oh, you put it up on the
video, yeah. I couldn't believe it was like a year ago.
Adam put up a little video photo thing about 16 seconds of the show that I co-hosted it with Nichelle Stevens, and we did it at. Are you from Savannah at all, Jim?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. Anyway, they have a new venue here. It's outdoors, indoors. They took the old shipping containers, cut into them, and they made a pizza shop out of one, and a little covered area, and it's about. A full block by a half a block long, and it's a great place. People can come in with their kids, and it's all fenced in, and they can run, and they have a bar in the middle. They can have a drink. And we did our comedy there, and it was going great until, again, they had to close down and then reopen, and so it kind of took all the steam out of it. But, we'll do it again.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, though, because that was a good one. Yeah. Yeah, I think what's it called? Starland Yard or something like that?
Starland Yard, right.
Yeah, so what they did, it was like you said, they took these shipping containers and they kind of made it like they regentrified it or whatever. And they took this whole block and they just kind of leveled it. They put these containers on, made it like a nouveau, whatever. And it's like a whole like city block. They have like, the food trucks are there. And
they have food trucks, and they have a place that's actually in one of those containers that makes absolutely excellent pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, excellent pizza.
And where you did the comedy thing, they had like an open bar and a stage.
Right,
That's
right
pretty
beside
cool.
it. It's just a neat venue, and we had just got it going for a couple of months. We started before January, and then I think January was the last one I did because it just started to get a little too uncomfortable being out in public.
Yeah, I think it was the end of January, and y'all had scheduled one for the end of February, and then by then it was kind of like,
yeah,
so for
anyway,
safety reason.
Nichelle has it up and running again.
Oh, does she?
And I just not quite ready to go back into that environment.
Well, I mean, you're a spry young, buck of 73 or 74.
Keep going, pal.
72.
Keep going. Up
71?
the other way. You're going the wrong way.
You look like a.
I won't tell you my age, but okay, 7 years ago I turned 70.
You're 77? No way, Bill. I thought you were 72
I'm 77,
or 73.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like it makes sense. You don't need to be out there and exposing yourself to health risks.
Well, with me, it's a death sentence. People can, when younger people, they can probably get it and survive, and hopefully everyone that gets it survives. But that's not the fact. So I'm just trying to take it a little bit easy.
Oh, I canceled all my events. I mean, all the author events and everything. I canceled just for safety reasons too, because
And some of them, the city that they were held in had put a kibosh on it too.
and that's what Jim's been doing. Like they do this continual thing, and they work with all these groups, like that do these big conventions and stuff, and they host them online. So.
But at least there's that opportunity. I heard you saying when I was driving in, you get that opportunity because of the internet to get you whatever you do. If you write something, if you can get make music, you can get it out there to an audience that was never available before. You had to go to the local club, or even a film. It was if Hollywood or nothing, and now you have several ways to get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you've got an infinite number of tools, and you can get out there. The question is being willing to do the work. And I mean, sometimes it's not the fun stuff, but
yeah, Jim, you remember the Devil's Due short film that we did for the book launch? You remember? Okay, you remember the guy that was the devil in the little short film?
I do.
Okay, that's
tall, good-looking
That's who we
one.
were talking with. That's Bill. Yeah,
good to meet you, Bill.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that short.
Yeah,
We just reran that. Yeah.
That was the first time us doing it. It was the first time y'all were doing it, and I think it's really cool. I haven't even made this public, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it right now.
Go.
But the Savannah Authors Expo, Bill, that we did. Okay,
Right.
so we're not doing it in person this year. We're going to be doing it with Jim Nettles and his group through Con-Tinual.
Good.
So we're going to be doing it all online, and we're going to have like little author panels and all that stuff. I'm not quite ready to tell everybody the date yet, but I'm just letting everybody know that we are doing it. But yeah, this is a great alternative to just saying, hey, we can't do anything.
No, again, they put a stop sign up. The intelligent people know how to go around it. It's that simple. I mean, life is full of risk. It always is, without what's going on now. And people that made anything of themselves, they ran into 100 obstacles, but they're the ones that figured out how to get around it. They never let it beat them.
Yeah, I agree.
Usually it's the obstacles that make you get creative.
Yes.
Something doesn't work.
Makes you think in a different direction sometime.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the time, that obstacle means you take it in a better direction.
Yep.
If it's too easy, then, where's the fun in that?
I'll tell you, years ago, I just said, I'm going to write a kid's book. And I did, a short book. And I actually read it in 3 different schools to the appropriate age kids. I was so proud, so happy of that. And a couple years later, I look at it and I said, what junk. How did I dare get up in front of a class and read this? It was okay, but it was not as good as I thought it was at the time. Just the fact that I had done it made me feel happy. But then I wrote a couple other things, and I thought I did pretty good. So
we're actually, I'm gonna kind of brag on Bill. We've got a couple of new projects that we're gonna be doing this year, and one of them is one of the stories that Bill wrote, and it's got a great plot twist at the end. I mean, it all comes down to the very ending of the story.
The very last
no
word.
Spoilers, though. No,
I'm just saying the last word changes the entire story.
Yeah. And talking about that, taking risks or doing, how many times have you failed in your life, Bill?
Failed?
Yeah.
I'll never forget my failures. I can't count them right now. But what I did good fades, but when I failed, it just bothered me so much. I never wanted to do that again that way. And that was, it really inspired me. And as I say, there's nothing wrong with losing if you take the message out of it. Hey, you didn't do the right thing. Figure it out.
How about you, Jim? How many times have you failed in life?
Not yet.
Let me go carry the logarithmic factor on that, and I'll get back to you after I get a hold of the Cray for a couple of hours.
That's a trick. Excuse me. That's a trick question for us because Adam hasn't failed yet. He wants to know what it feels like.
Oh yeah, here, Jim. You see what Bill is like. He's a jokester, right? Like I think I failed. I honestly think my failure factor is higher than a lot of people's success rates.
That means you're doing a lot. That means you're doing a lot.
I feel like I fall flat on my face a lot.
Actually, that's actually important, because if you are failing, that means you're trying.
Yes.
If you're not failing often enough, you're not trying hard
Exactly.
enough. And because everybody's afraid of failing. Guess what? If you're not failing, then you're not trying hard enough. And
like
if you're not trying hard enough, then
Bill's encouraged me to do comedy, like to get up there and do some of these stand-up things. And this one time, I got up there with him. I was like, only if we could tell the story of how we met, because Bill and I have a totally different version of how we met.
Yeah, mine's true.
And mine's true too. Actually, Jim, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but Bill, like, can you go ahead and tell it?
Well, it was easy. He came on right before our show has been on at 5 o'clock for the last 3.5 years, and there was no one in front of us. It was just music piped in, and then we just come in and take our time setting up. So we come in one Sunday. No one told us he'd be here. No one. The studio, nothing. And there's a guy sitting at the mic at 10 minutes of 5. And, we come in and we gotta get ready. We kind of said a quick hi. I knew he was on a show. So we tried to be polite, but we still had to get the board set up. And we were wondering why no one told us. So then we come in the second week, and he locks us out. He locks us out. I said, well, this has to be addressed. Fortunately, management of the studio, management had cooler heads and say, that's it, you got to be off the air by 5 of now, because you can't do that. You can't crowd the next show coming in. So anyway, so he was very polite. He learned that he was wrong, apologized profusely, and that's the end of the story.
I didn't apologize at all, first of all. But it is funny, like his version of the story, because when he says I locked him out, that's true. That is true. I did lock you out. But what he leaves out of the story is the first week that I was on, Bill comes into the studio at I had an hour show at the time, remember? It was before I had the 2-hour show.
Yeah.
So I had an hour segment, right? So Bill comes in the studio and he's like that, he's super loud, and I'm on the air and I'm like, what is this guy doing? And he sits over in the chair next to me, and I'm like, what is going on here? So I was like, well, the next week, this is how bad it was, Jim. It was so funny. The next week, I did lock them out, and I did open it up, but it was right before time to change over.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so they, not only did they send out an email saying, oh, you got to give them 5 minutes, for everybody, they took the lock off the door. And I was and it was so funny, because the first time I did this thing with Bill, we were up on stage talking about this story. I'm on stage and I'm telling the same thing about but I'm stomping my feet like a big Clydesdale horse walking around. And I'm like, this is what I had to deal with my first time on the radio with Bill Cooper.
Real success comes from when you cause a policy change.
And me and Bill are best of friends now too. It's so funny.
Oh yeah, I mean we had to work it out, but locking me out wasn't the answer. And if I was stomping around, I just got up from my afternoon nap, so I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
I was never even mad at you, Bill. I didn't even find out you were mad at me until a year later.
I wasn't mad. I was just wanted that straightened out, because it couldn't go on you locking us out. No, that had to change.
I had the door locked and everything. I was
I know it.
They're like, we got to go on. I'm like, yeah, you'll go on when it's your time.
My brother's a retired cop. I could have brought his battering ram with me, and I would have been all about it.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I have lockpicks. That's why I have lockpicks. Subtle ways of doing it.
Listen, I got to step out. Very nice talking with you, Jim. Very nice talking with you. Very interesting guest, and thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Bill. And Chad, what's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, same old stuff.
Good. Bass, you ready to play some? It's that time we got to do the station ID too. Everybody, it's WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul, and Bass is getting ready to get mic'd up. We get the mic potted up. You ready? All right, go. You got it. that was nice, Bass. Thank you very much. He's noodling again. That's awesome. Yeah, but Bill stepped out. But yeah, it's so crazy, man, because he and I have totally different versions of how we met and whatever, and it was so cool. And we're like really good friends now. It's so funny. But yeah, dude, I failed like I don't know, man. There's sometimes where I'm like, am I even gonna ever be able to reach my goal of what I want to do? I've even had to reassess my goals. Like, what is this I want to do?
Well, and here's the thing. I'll tie back to the idea of story and how you tell a story, because this is actually one of the things that's important. If you look at any story structure, you've got that low point. You've got the dark night of the soul. You've got that point. You're sitting there looking at it and going, what in hell am I doing and why? And the reason that has impact for us is because we've all been there. Mm-hmm. We've all hit it. We've all had that failure. We've all had that point where not only did it not work, it blew up in our faces spectacularly. Mm-hmm. Now, hopefully you hold on to the lesson and you get to tell the fun story about it later. But this is part of the reason that story structure is important, is because it kind of mirrors the way life works. Things are normal, things get good, things blow up. Then we figure out how to fix that, and then we get to our new normal. And that's because it's kind of how life works. Sometimes you're on the upslide, sometimes you're on the downslide, and it's important to remember you got to go for the ride. And that's the reason that creative outlets and things like this have been so important in 2020, is because some things like horror remind us that it could be worse. Some things give us hope. Some things remind us of how things were before the current lockdown. Mm-hmm. And a lot of other things remind us, no matter how bad things may be today, because obviously there's economic problems. It's not just wearing a mask, and it's not just how many people are working from home or not working from home, as the case may be. It's the reminder, we read the stories to escape. We also read the stories to find ourselves in them, find the people we know in them, and to gain something from them. Sometimes that is a sense of dread, but more often we read that for the sense of escape and the sense of joy at the end. And I think that's the reason that creators have been so important in 2021 and 2020, is that so many people, when this first started, they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to lock ourselves in our house for a couple weeks. And it was a mini vacation. Hey, things are great. It'll all be fine when we come back out. And a month later, it was like, wait a minute, this is not over yet. Mm-hmm. But for a period of time there, it was, people went diving into consuming all the backlog they had on insert your favorite streaming, series here. Then it became, I'm now watching stuff I'd have never watched. I'm now reading things that I've never read. I'm listening to things that I've never heard, because it's the thing that still reminds me that there is more than the four walls I'm staring at right now. And I think that's the reason that we as creators are important. It's not only about, what do we leave for the future? It's how do we impact any one person? So if you've written a book that carries one person through something or gives them something, then there's value in it.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I focus on relationship building, and I focus on putting people first. And even like this whole thing, with everything last year and this year or whatever, we've all had to make a lot of changes, and so the storytelling side of it, what I tried to do was look at ways that I could connect with new people, the folks that want to be there, the folks that want to, check out what we're doing or whatever, and not chasing people. I have no interest in chasing people. I want to connect with people who want to be there. I want to connect with people that, I want them to be there. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's been a better, I don't know how to say it, but it's been a better way to go about things than just trying to rely on, like, well, if I put it out there, like you said earlier about if you build it, they will come. It's more like, well, if you do something I'm enjoying, like we talked about, like the SteeRange Comics, we talked about the Aberdeen Tapes, we talked about, like your writing and coaching stuff. Like, honestly, I've read your Author's Essential stuff. I've never read any of your fiction stuff. So I don't even know what kind of fiction, like style that you have. I know that you're a fiction writer, but what I really enjoyed about you was your business writing. You know what I mean? So that's just something I feel like what you're talking about. Like, yeah, now we're checking out stuff that we might not have ever looked at, whatever. And I kind of, when going back to the storytelling thing, I kind of feel like it's like, well, if you're, you might be a small indie creator or might not, but if you have a good story and like you just said, if it reaches one person and it connects with that one person, well, haven't you kind of already, been successful with that? Like if your story reaches somebody and it helps them or changes them or touches them or whatever, I mean, isn't that like a really nice level of success?
Well, and I think, and going back to where we started a couple of hours ago, I think this is where the new Storytellers project is going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
Is because you're connecting storytellers with people that want to know more about them. Why am I telling the stories I tell?
Yeah.
Why am I doing the things that I do? And it used to be one of those things of you pick up the book on the shelf, you took it home, you discovered your favorite authors. With social media, with things like Storytellers now, we actually have an ability to not only read the work, we can get to know the person to an extent.
I think that is a great point, and we've got to finish up the hour. I'm sorry, Jim, to cut you off there, but talking about like switching over. Where can people check out your stuff? Like, what's the best link for your stuff?
So, to find me is jamespnettles.com. That'll link you to the fiction me and everything else. We also invite you to pop by ContinualConvention.com. And that'll lead you to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and we've got a bunch of new stuff that is coming down the pipe.
Nice.
All
right, man.
There's a couple of other.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Jim. I really appreciate it. And sorry again, I don't mean to cut you off. I just have to wrap it up. So I appreciate you being on, man.
Always a great time to come and hang out with you, Adam. And I appreciate hanging out and I appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks a lot.